In this lesson, we're going to take a second look at the anatomy of a web page. We'll show you a few more elements that make up your average web page, give you a brief introduction to CSS and the relationship between CSS and HTML, a look at the very useful div and span tags, some points on using tables, and finish off with the often misunderstood doctype. CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. We've mentioned CSS several times throughout our lessons, so it's time to actually discuss what CSS really is. As I said, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's the bits of your website where you can say, I want all my headings to be 16 pixels, bold, red, use the Arial font, or I want all my menu boxes to be 200 pixels wide, have a blue border, and hang out on the right-hand side of the page. Your CSS contains all the information about the presentation parts of your page. It's what makes your page look pretty. Most of the time it's kept apart from your normal HTML, and very frequently it's kept in an entirely separate file. This might seem strange and unnecessary, but it allows you to do one very cool thing. You can create one CSS document and use it to style your entire website. This means that if you ever want to change what color your headings are, you don't need to go through and edit every single page of your website. You can just change one little line of code in one file and every page will change. Fabulous time saver. CSS is somewhat different to HTML, but don't let this intimidate you. CSS isn't overly fussy about the way you write it, as long as you follow a few basic rules, which are fairly easy to learn. To begin with, your CSS can live in 3 different places on your website. Let's have a look at the most useful, the external style sheet. As mentioned, your CSS can live in an external file. In this case, it lives outside of your page and can be used to control all of the pages on your website. This is a file with the extension .css, and information inside it will usually look like this. If you wanted to, you could copy the text above and paste it into Notepad, save it as something.css, and you would have created a CSS file. It's as easy as that. What about something that's moderately useful? Embedded. This is where you create your CSS at the top of your web page in the head section. This is useful when you're first creating a page and you don't want to be hopping between pages while you're still working on it. You can then pull it out and put it in an external style sheet later. You can also use it if there's a style on the page that you're never ever likely to use on another page, and you don't see the point in making every page load that one style all the time. An embedded style will also override a style in the external style sheet, so you can use it for exceptions. Usually embedded styles look like this. And the least useful, inline styles. This is where you might specify the style for every single thing on your page. To do our heading, you might go for something like this. This is a bad habit to get into, since if you ever want to change your page, you'll have to go through and change every single one of these tags. It's also going to bloat your code horribly. The only time you might want to use this is for super duper exceptions, since an inline style will override both an external and embedded style sheet style. The bad news is that many what you see is what you get editors will fill your code with inline styles like this unless you learn how to create style sheets properly with your particular software. Look for tutorials to show you how. The beautiful thing about CSS is that you can use it to style pretty much anything. Every single part of your page can be used as a hook to peg a style on. You can say that you want all of your H1 headings to be blue, italic, 18 pixels tall, and indented 30 pixels from the right margin. You can make it so all of your links have a fancy floral background that turns into a striped background when someone holds their mouse over the link. If you don't want all of your links to have that background, you just add a class to all of the links you want to stay floralized. Only links with the class of floral will have that particular background. CSS can be pretty good fun. To help you shape and design your page with CSS, there are a couple of wildcard tags you can use on your site. The span tag and the div tag. The span tag is an inline wildcard. Imagine you had a big heading in red text. You just want 2 words of the heading to be in a different color. What do? Well, you can simply wrap those 2 words in span tags, just like this. Now you can create a rule in your CSS to say all spans inside an H1 tag should be red. Or you could create a separate class inside your CSS, saying that anything with the class of highlight should be coloured red. Then wrap your two words in a span with the class of highlight, like this. The div tag. A div is short for division. It's like the span in that it doesn't actually mean anything itself. It's like a wildcard, or an invisible box that you can give a background colour, a border, move it to the left or right of your page, give it a background image, whatever you want. Divs are one of the most useful tags you'll use on your page. You can use them to say, this section is the menu, or this section is the article, and then you can style and move those sections however you like. You can distinguish your menu div from your article div by giving the div a class, just like we did before in the heading. Your CSS allows you to do all sorts of things with those two boxes. You could make my menu sit on the left of the page while my article sits on the right. You could give my menu 200 pixels wide and my article section 500 pixels wide. You could give my menu a very tasty border that is 2 pixels wide, dotted in red, and you could make my article text easy to read by justifying it. And now onto tables. Now that you've met the div and span, we're going to step back into the last century and talk about that other infamous structure on your average web page, the table. CSS used to be very problematic, with support ranging from broken to non-existent, so tables were the structural tool of choice for web designers, despite it only being intended for displaying tabular data. These days it's much better to use divs in CSS for this purpose, but a lot of people have trouble getting their websites to display the same way in different browsers using divs and CSS. So they fall back to the ever-reliable table. In reality, although web designers will bleat on about the evil of tables, a table or two isn't going to kill your website or completely destroy your chances of succeeding as an affiliate. When you become more experienced with your website building, it is worth devoting a little time to learning how to become tableless. But in the meantime, this is the worst you're likely to suffer by using tables. It will bloat your code a bit and make your page slower to load. And this can affect your bounce rate, which is the number of people who just hit the back button after clicking through to your page from a search engine listing, and may thereby affect your search engine ranking. However, unless your code is really, really bloated, this effect is likely to be pretty insignificant. The average table doesn't add much more than a couple of kilobytes to your file size. It will be difficult to change your layout later, particularly since you'll need to go through every page on your site to edit the tables. This ranks pretty high on the pain in the butt scale, particularly if you have many, many pages. And it will put less important parts of your page at the top of your code, which could affect your search engine spider's understanding of your page. For instance, if you have a left side menu on your page and you're using a table layout, your menu will appear first when the search engine reads your page. And that's too bad if you wanted your article and keyword loaded heading to be the first thing it read. Lastly, you'll lose serious coolness points amongst other web developers, but this probably is of little concern to you as an affiliate. Let's see what a table actually looks like in code. Table. That opens the table. You can specify things like widths and cell padding in here, but that's better left for the CSS to do. You do need to specify cell spacing since there's nothing that correlates to this in CSS. Different browsers have different ideas on how much cell spacing should be the default amount, so it can really throw your designs out if you don't zero this in every table. TR is table row. It runs horizontally across the page. When you want a new row, you need to close your first TR with a \TR and then open a new one. TD is a table cell. TD is actually short for table data, since it's the only part of the table that actually contains data. You can't put any information in the table or TR tags unless it's in a TD tag. You can see how creating tables can seriously bloat your code. Simply, to create a single-celled box, you need to write all of this. Whereas using a div, you can simply go. You can multiply this difference in code by however many boxes you think you need in a website, and things can get pretty nasty. Okay, what is doctype? The last element of the page we're going to discuss now might seem a little confusing, abstract and downright geeky, but it can have a real impact on the way your page displays. It's also the reason behind many, I can't get my page to look right complaints, so it's a good thing to be aware of. The doctype is the very first line on your page, and traditionally it looked like this. This is a doctype, and doctype is short for Document Type Declaration, and it basically tells the browser which type of HTML or XHTML you've written your page in, and which rules you've obeyed or ignored. Have you closed all of your lowercase tags? Are all of your values enclosed within quote marks? Are they correctly nested as well? By setting your doctype, you give the browser a benchmark against which to understand your page. It tells the browser to render your pages in standards compliant mode, which makes them less susceptible to the various whimsical differences between browsers. This means you can be more confident with your design and spend less time working on hacks to get things to display the same way in Firefox and Internet Explorer, and Safari, and Opera, and Chrome, and so on. Without a valid doctype, your page will be rendered in quirks mode. The browser assumes you don't know what you're doing and tries to render your page in the most backwards compatible way, which can wreak havoc with your carefully crafted design. This is why so many aspiring affiliates have difficulty getting their designs to look the same in different browsers. Each different browser is bringing its own set of rules to the table and is trying to understand your page in the way it knows how. And of course, they all understand it differently. There are quite a few different doctypes. If you're brand new to web design, the one you should probably be using is HTML 4.01 Transitional Doctype. If you've been doing a bit of web design and you know how to check whether your HTML is valid or not, try moving to the strict doctype. Also, if you're interested in keeping up with the times, keeping things simple, and are otherwise not too concerned about older browsers understanding your document, you can now use this simple doctype. When you are specifying your doctype, be careful that you're actually specifying it correctly. Many HTML editors do half the job of specifying a doctype but don't actually include the full address where the specifications of the doctype are kept. And time for today's lesson summary. Hopefully by now you've got a reasonable idea about what HTML looks like, and you can peek into a source code of a website without being completely confused. In this lesson, we took a quick look at CSS, Cascading Style Sheets, the span tag, the div tag, tables, and the doctype. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.